Anything, whatever you're thinking, whatever.
Okay.
There's a bunch of topics I know you proposed before, so anything works. I'm cool with whatever.
Well, since you've been so busy, do you want to talk about what it's like to catch a rattlesnake?
Sure.
Okay. Let me start up the thing here. Hang on a sec. Okay, here we go. Okay, back with Ryan, and one of the things that is really cool about Ryan, I brag about you a lot up here actually for this one. There's a lot of people that have tuned into your YouTube channel for this one. So Ryan, what's your official title? Are you the official rattlesnake catcher of Lethbridge, or what's the?
My official title. I'm an ecological consultant.
Okay.
So my unofficial title, I kind of refer to myself as the rattlesnake wrangler. Like if somebody calls the hotline and
Yeah.
ends up talking to me, I'll get on the line and I'll say, hello, and this is Ryan. I'm the rattlesnake wrangler for Lethbridge, and and then we'll get into whatever is the deal.
Sounds like you need theme music.
I could probably use some, yeah.
We should do logos for a golf shirt or something like that.
I have
you
actually
could sell as merchandise.
I do actually have a logo that was made for me by a local Blackfoot artist.
Oh, really?
Yeah, a logo that has Calf Shirt, who was the first kind of rattlesnake wrangler of Lethbridge.
Okay.
And this was a guy who his parents passed away when he was young, and then he had an experience where he felt like he was adopted by the rattlesnakes. And so he had a pair of rattlesnakes that were his parents, and all these other rattlesnakes were his brothers and sisters. And so he was quite famous in Lethbridge at the turn of the century, because everywhere he went, he always had a rattlesnake on him, and he was freehand working with them. They're like his pets, but not his pets. He considered them his brothers and sisters, right? In fact, when this guy, I took a group out today on the Blood Reserve to a place. There's a box canyon out there, and I told them a little story about Calf Shirt. When this guy wanted to marry his daughter, he said, "Well, I don't know if I can, trust what kind of a man this guy is. To me, if he's a decent guy, he'll get along with the rattlesnakes." So he told him, he gave him instructions to this particular spot to go in the box canyon, where there would be a rock, and there's a large rattlesnake that lives right there. And he gave him a root. I don't know what that root was, but he told him, chew on that root and then spit on the rattlesnake's head. And after you've spit on his head, you should be able to just pick him up and bring him to the house. He says, I know this rattlesnake very well, but if the rattlesnake doesn't like you, then he's going to bite you. But that's how I'm going to tell whether or not you're a decent guy. Like, if you're a decent guy, you should be able to pick him up and bring him back to the house. And so he sent this poor future son-in-law on this, potentially very injurious ordeal to gain his trust. And the guy did it. Hey, the guy did it. Yeah, he did, and he successfully, went through it without getting bit and all that. So
I thought you were going to start telling one of those farmer's daughters jokes. The guy comes to the house and wants to marry his daughter.
It's pretty much that way, right? It's pretty much that kind of story. But he succeeded, right? So
that's cool.
Yeah. So that.
What was the root?
What's that?
What was the root?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Okay.
Yeah, it's part of his magic. He's what's considered in Blackfoot a asokanaki, meaning that he can do perform miracles and stuff and heal people.
Okay.
They said that one snake he always kept in his belly, and when he'd go to heal people, he could regurgitate it and bring it up, and it'd come out his mouth, and then he'd use the snake to doctor people, and
Wow.
Yeah, it was quite something. But so I had a Blackfoot artist, Margie Cropbeard Wolf, who's a good friend of mine, use an image of calf shirt, and then with some titles on it. I think it's Anakot Siyop, which means we respectfully coexist with one another.
Okay. Yeah.
And then, just the Facebook page, Rattlesnakes of Lethbridge Facebook page. So I do have something that's set up already to start churning out merch. It's just
man, I'm telling you, it's a gold mine. You could be
yeah.
You could do mugs, you could do shirts, you could do all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I get people come up to me all the time. I even, like, just before we started podcasting, I went over to buy some beer at the liquor store. But when I pulled in, I was on the phone with somebody, and there was a lady who was recognized me, and she was standing there, and she was waiting to introduce herself to me. I wasn't even able to get off the phone, and she's, are you the Rattlesnake guy, like live and for real? It's like, yeah, So I shake her hand and stuff. I can't say that I don't like that stuff. It's really nice for the ego to be recognized, and to have people enjoy you. Know who you are, and enjoy you. So yeah, there's been a little bit of public recognition through what I've been doing, for sure, and not on accident, because I've been putting it on YouTube and putting it on Facebook, and the reason for it, of course, is not necessarily to try to the recognition and stuff is just a fringe benefit, but what I've been trying to do is public education, right? Because that's where I feel like my predecessor with this program, he kind of fell short.
You just go out and do the job and call it a day.
Yeah, and he'd do little things like if they're having an ag fest or something like that, he might put up a rattlesnake booth and have somebody there kind of give some information about rattlesnakes. He had the brochures, rattlesnake brochures made up that are every year they're sent out to the homes that are just along the coulee that are most rattlesnake prone. But I think so much more public education is being done now, and it's being done through using the tools that we have, YouTube and Facebook and Twitter and all of this stuff, right? So now there's a significant portion of the population of Lethbridge that knows quite a bit about rattlesnakes, as much as a lot of scientists know about rattlesnakes. Because I try to give them a little, in every video I try to give them a little bit of something, a little bit of facts about what the snakes' lives are like, and what they're doing right now, and why we're finding them in your yard, and this kind of thing, So it's all good. Yeah, it's all good. The awareness is growing to this. Like the other weekend, I was out in the mountains, and somebody sent me a message and a photograph, and they said down at the wetlands, they said a turtle's been, not one but 4 turtles have been killed at the Elizabeth Hall wetlands, and they sent me a picture of one of those, right? And so I thought immediately that it looked like somebody had just purposely killed a turtle, like some future Jeffrey Dahmer that's going through the motions of learning how to be cruel to animals and stuff, had stomped a turtle into the ground or whatever. But then I asked my friend to go check it out, and when he got there, he immediately recognized that the city had mowed, and the mower had run over the turtle. And so I took the picture and I posted it on the Lethbridge Rattlesnakes page, and I told people, for those of you who advocate or who insist that the city mow these swaths beside the paths in our nature parks, this is the kind of thing that results from it. Because we saw animals, snakes especially, being killed year after year by those mowers.
Right.
And even though, like, we didn't have one this year. I don't think we had one last year, but we used to have every year we'd have before the season kind of got rolling, we'd have a meeting, myself, any of the volunteers, the guys from the city that we work with the bylaw office, nature center was there. Sometimes Fish and Wildlife would be there, or one of the developers like Melco or something would have a representative there. And we just kind of like touch base before the season began on what our plans were to mitigate rattlesnakes during the season.
Right.
And in those meetings, we always brought up the mowing is an issue. The midsummer mow hacks up snakes, and nothing was ever changed. Based on our suggestion that something needed to change. Nothing, no movement was ever done on it. But last weekend, because I built the Facebook audience up, I posted that picture. That picture was viewed by 40,000 people, most of them in Lethbridge.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I ended up having the mayor emailing me, and now I've got meetings next week with the guy that's in charge of mowing the lawns and stuff. But and I had, of course, CTV and Global doing news reports and all this stuff. So, yeah, that tool, that Facebook page and the social media tool is very powerful. For making change happen that needs to happen, but it's also very dangerous, very, very dangerous, because I'm lucky, I think, that I'm being kind of forgiven by the city for biting the hand that feeds in this case, because they're the ones that mowed the turtle, and they would have been very happy if I'd have just went straight to the city, to the guys that were in charge of it, and sat down and did some, like one of the ladies from Fish and Wildlife told me, you're really good at the public education. You need to also learn how to use like targeted education. In this case, it would have been nice if you just came to the guys first rather than blow it up on the media. But I don't, it wasn't like we didn't bring it forward before.
No, and that's, and if nothing else is sometimes working, sometimes that's the sort of response that you need to actually affect change with things like that.
That's right. Yeah.
So
I'm loving using that medium to do that, to change people's minds about the snakes. There's a lot of people who have talked to me. Well, not a lot, but less than a dozen actually. But even still, it really feels really good when somebody comes up to you and says, "I had a huge phobia of snakes, and I used your videos to help me overcome that." That's good stuff, right?
That's good stuff. Yeah. Cool. So what's it like to catch a rattlesnake?
At this point in my life, it's very routine, right? It's my everyday during the summer. I caught a rattlesnake less than an hour before we started podcasting this evening.
Right. Yeah.
But when you first are dealing with rattlesnakes, it's a rush. It's a huge rush. They're a powerful animal. There's very few animals out there that have the kind of innate power of a rattlesnake, where there's just something about being in sharing a space with them. Your heart is going to start thumping. You're going to get an adrenaline kick if you're not used to it, and you're there with a rattlesnake. It's powerful. It's like being in a space with a grizzly bear.
Right. Yeah.
These are animals that potentially can do some significant damage to you. And a rattlesnake is, I don't know. There's really something about it to where, like, this is why people covet parts of them. Hey, like, oh, I wish, there's people that I know, like, sometimes a rattlesnake will be hit on the road. By the time I get there, the rattle's cut off by somebody because, they saw the roadkill and they wanted the rattle, right?
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
You get that kind of thing where they're covered or they want the, the skin, or something
skin,
like
yeah.
that. Yeah. Eating rattlesnake is a thing in places. I think this all has to do with the power of the animal, hey, and trying to take some of that power somehow, hey,
right,
and that ends up coming through possession of parts of the animals, which here in Alberta is illegal, but
right.
But regardless, it's the same thing with like feathers of birds of prey. You're not supposed to possess those either, but people covet them because they're power animals, right?
Right. Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the rattlesnakes. So I have no beef with anybody like that, except if they're going out and killing snakes,
right? Yeah.
Just because they want to get the thing that they covet. But the fact that somebody wants a snake skin or wants a rattle or something, wants a part of this snake, I can completely identify with that. That's something that I think is really primally ingrained in us with the powerful animals.
Right.
That we want to take some of that, we want to acquire some of that power. So for someone like me, even the question, what's it like to catch a rattlesnake? To catch a rattlesnake is in a way catching some of that power too, right? That's a kind of, for myself, I work with the snakes. Nobody else gets to work with the snakes. It's a special status thing even. In the society, you have to have a special permit, a research permit with Fish and Wildlife. You're not allowed to.
Yeah.
Not Joe Blow can just legally handle a snake here. And then of course, like handling the snake itself, I have all kinds of options, right? I have all kinds of options that I have for handling. I got tongs that I can use to like grasp them with the tong and use that as my handling tool. I also have this hook, and the hook doesn't squeeze them, so the hook is actually the preferable tool because it causes less damage to them, that kind of thing.
Okay, right.
But they're less easily handled with the hook, right? If they don't want to be on the hook, you got potential.
I've seen
problems.
some of the videos where they kind of
they flop right off,
really slither off.
There. Yeah, they flop themselves off the hook, and then you got your bare hands, right?
Yeah.
And there are times where you have to use your bare hands.
Yeah. Well, I noticed especially like when they're caught in garden netting and that sort of thing. I noticed that you're using your bare hands for that.
Yeah, you have to. There's no choice.
Yeah.
There's no other choice than to use your bare hands if they're caught up in something like garden netting. Or one time, I had to free a snake that had got stuck on tar, newly made tar.
Yeah.
I had to free the snake, and then I had to hold the snake while Adrian used Dawn soap and washed the tar off its belly and stuff too. Hey, like first I had to peel it off of the tar safely somehow, with which I managed. I didn't get bit, but then holding it for 20 minutes, a half hour while Adrian washes the snake, that kind of thing. I've done snakes that were injured that needed surgeries, where I'd hold the snake while it's undergoing surgeries, and that can get pretty hairy because, of course, surgeries are painful.
Yeah. I was going to say you don't anesthetize a snake probably.
Well, they're not easily anesthetized actually.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, the first time I brought a snake to an actual veterinarian clinic, I found a vet. She's no longer in Lethbridge, but she was the one person who was willing to work with snakes. There's another guy, McFarland, here on the west side of Lethbridge who will work with them, but her name was Dr. Stephanie. She was willing to work on them, and we the first one I brought that needed a surgery, we put it in a tank and tried to gas it to sleep, it wouldn't
Okay.
it wouldn't go to sleep. Okay?
Oh.
Yeah, the gas would not put it to sleep. So so we just had to deal with it, alert and all of that. Every time the snake buzzed just a little bit, Dr. Stephanie jumped about 10 feet. But I held the bitey end, during the whole thing.
Have you ever been bit?
No.
No.
I'm not by a rattlesnake.
I saw the one with you and the garter snake where you were chewing on your thumb there.
Yeah. I let the garter snakes do that once in a while, because they have a venom, and they have fangs. They're rear fangs, and the venom is in their gums. And once they get their rear fangs into you, the venom enters. From their gums, it goes down into the hole that the punctures that the rear fangs make, and you're like my thumb that I let the snake bite the other week. My thumb, just went numb for an hour. Okay, so it's a kind of a venom, but not everybody is in line, in agreeing that it's a venom and stuff. So it's when I know that a snake is going to bite me, like usually if I'm going to go pick up a snake, somebody calls me to their house because they think they have a rattlesnake. Sometimes they'll have garter snakes or they'll have bull snakes. They're not rattlesnakes, but the people are confused, right? And in those cases, if they have a non-venomous snake, I usually just chuck my tools to the side and just go hands-on with them, right?
Yeah.
I've been handling snakes since I was 8 years old, and I raised boa constrictors growing up, and so I'm really good at reading snake body language. I'm really good at handling them with my hands. The tools I'm still kind of getting, especially the hook. I'm still training myself in using the hook and using the tongs and this kind of a thing. To me, it's the hands. Like a lot of people now, if they have to go hands-on with a rattlesnake, they'll do what's called tubing. So there's these clear tubes that they'll use, and they'll get the snake's head to go up in the tube, and then they can kind of hold the tube with their head and neck in the tube so that they can't bite anybody.
Right.
But to me, I've tried to use a tube, and to me it feels awkward. It feels dangerous. It feels more dangerous than if I've got just the live head in my hand. So I always just choose to go. If I have to go hands-on, I go all the way hands-on.
Right.
And that's where I feel most comfortable, and I can feel the snake's body movement. I can read his language. I can tell if he's agitated. I can tell if I'm in a situation where I'm going to get bitten. I know when I'm going to get bitten before I get bitten.
Right.
And with the bull snakes and the garter snakes, sometimes if I know I'm going to get bitten, like the snake is moving like he wants to bite me, I'll just let him bite me. And then the big challenge is not to jerk and pull away from the bite, but to just let the bite happen, because you jerk and pull away and you break their teeth. It causes problems for them. So yeah, in some cases I'll just let them bite, but the rattlesnakes, no. I do, I'm absolutely certain I'm going to get bitten eventually. It's just, how many rattlesnakes can you pick up before an accident happens and the snake bites you, right? So, I've done things like, when I was married, I was young, and, my wedding ring, my finger kept growing after I put my wedding ring on.
Okay.
And it was such that I couldn't get the ring off, right? So when I started working officially with the rattlesnakes for the city, I had my wedding ring cut off, because I know if I get bit on that hand and I got that ring that I can't take off, I'm losing that finger,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And so I don't wear any kind of jewelry, anything on my hands and feet, I try to keep them, just plain, and bears.
No toe rings for Ryan, eh?
Yeah, no, nothing like that. No, nothing like that. So, no watches, no, I don't want to mess with anything.
Okay.
No rings, nothing. Yeah, bracelets, blah, blah, blah.
What's the most challenging snake you've ever caught? Any stand out in your memory?
Catching them is not very challenging, I guess, like if you can actually catch them, right? The 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 biggest challenges come when a snake has a really nice established spot. Like what the snakes like to have in the summer is they like to go out and they find a nice spot for themselves where they got a little rodent hole that they can dive down in case of a predator. And then right next to that rodent hole, they got some open area where they're exposed to the sun where they can bask. And then they usually will have some kind of a little plant or something nearby that casts shade that they can sit in the shade. So they can move between the sunlight and shade and regulate their body temperature. They can dive down the hole if a predator comes. And there's got to be abundant food in the area. Lots of mice and voles and things like this. They don't really care so much about water. They get most of that right from the prey.
Right. Okay.
So the water that's in their bodies. But so the most difficult rattlesnakes to deal with are ones that are in this situation and they're so adept at diving down the hole when the predator comes that you don't have an opportunity to catch them, right?
Okay.
Before they dive. And so there's been times where somebody's had a snake on their property in a situation like that, and you might have to visit that property 4 or 5 days in a row before you're able to actually catch the snake outside its hole, and before it dives down in there, and you got to sneak up on it and everything, right? So those ones are really the most difficult. Other than that, yeah, they're fairly easy to work with.
But the ones that are caught guard netting and that sort of thing, I mean, when you have to get hands on with them, and it's tricky because I've seen you've got to get scissors out and that sort of thing. Like, is it tricky to sort of hold them to keep them from moving their head around? Or
yeah, I usually prefer to if they're in garden netting, I usually prefer to have a partner. So I can be the guy that holds the snake because I'm adept at it. I've grown up with it, and I'm comfortable with it. So I can hold the snake while they use the scissors and cut the netting off. There's situations like the other day that I ran into where they didn't know that they had a snake in the netting. They called because they had another snake, and when I picked up I picked up the first snake, then I recognized they had a second snake that was caught in the netting. Normally, if somebody calls me and they say they got a snake caught in the netting, I take backup with me to the site so that we can do it, because it's very hard to hold a snake and cut it out of the netting at the same time.
Yeah.
But in like the situation last week, or the other day, when I discovered the snake in the netting, you only have a limited time to get them out of that netting before they die of asphyxiation. 50% of the ones that I get to are already dead. Even by the time like somebody reports it and I get there, the snake is dead. So in that case, the other day, I just did it myself. So I just put the scissors in my mouth, caught the snake up, held the snake in one hand, in my bad hand, I held the snake so that I can manipulate the scissors with my good hand and cut it out of the netting, right? So yeah, those are definitely tricky. Anytime you have to go hands-on with the rattlesnake, that's a danger time, and you got to have all your senses are on high, and you got to be reading that snake's body language. Something you didn't see in the film from the other day was that after I cut the snake out of the netting, I moved out of the camera to go to put it in the bucket. And when I did, the snake, recognizing that it was free of the netting, started striking.
Oh.
And it was pulling out of my hand. It was gonna bite me. And so I put it back down on the ground, and then I used my tongs to pick it up. You got to be able to read the body language accurately, in order to stay safe, and not be so committed to what you're doing that you can't change plans in the moment based on the body language, right? Because if I had tried to just keep hanging on to it, I'd have been bit for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Do you keep antivenom with you?
No.
Or do you?
No. The hospital has the antivenom. It's got to be refrigerated and stored in proper proper conditions and all this stuff. And you don't need antivenom like right in the moment. I mean, you need it. You want to get it as soon as you can, but you've got a long time to deal with if you need it. You can go hours before you get the antivenom and everything.
Well, you have time to stop for Timmy's on the way.
Yeah, you do. But you want a driver. You don't want to be driving yourself, because you do go numb, right? Your body numbs out from the neurotoxin. You don't want to be trying to drive when you can't move your foot because you can't feel it, right?
You cause more damage.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So so those ones are definitely complicated when you have to go hands-on. I enjoy sometimes getting hands-on with the snakes. Like a lot of times during the release, I work with them more than I have to. Like I could just turn the bucket over and leave it on the ground and walk away. But usually I play with my hook a little bit because I'm training myself to use my hook better every time. And then depending on the snake's attitude and stuff and which snake it is, like I like to go hands-on with the elder snakes. I don't know what it is, but I feel like this might be the only time I ever encounter this snake. It's an old snake, and for some reason I just want to touch them. Hey, I want to touch them, and so so every once in a while I'll go hands-on with the snake when I'm releasing it, just because I want to touch that snake. Okay, there's no other reason. It's not safe, but it's what I do. There was an occasion where I decided to make a video one day when I happened to have a bull snake and a rattlesnake on hand, and I decided to make a comparative video of the aggression of the bull snake compared to the rattlesnake. And so both of those snakes, one after the other, not at the same time, but both of those snakes I went completely hands-on with no tools at all. With the not even with my hand behind its neck, controlling it, but letting the snake move however it wanted to move in my hands. So that was, and I made a video of it and posted it on the YouTube channel just to demonstrate that, the snakes aren't out to get anybody, right? And the rattlesnakes, out of all of our snakes, the rattlesnakes are probably the least aggressive snake, Of course, it will bite you if you...
Sure, yeah.
If you put your hand on it, right? But...
Or trip over it.
But once it's... Yeah, but like most snakes, like once it knows that you're not trying to hurt it, you can just hold it, and it's not aggressive at all, So yeah, I did one of those videos one time. I don't know if I'll ever try that again. It was a risk. It was a big risk that I took.
I don't know if I told you this. I knew a guy in Lethbridge who's he and actually an MMA fighter who will remain nameless. Actually went out to Writing on Stone, and they may or may not have taken particular substances that look like a mushroom, maybe.
Oh yeah.
And I guess they were both, the one guy in particular, the guy that I knew, where they were standing on the rock face. He was in full trip, and he was seeing rattlesnakes coming towards him, like a few of them.
Right.
In between his legs, going around him. And he, just the sense of, I'm not here to hurt you. There was sort of like a telepathy. It was like a communication. All is well. Nobody has anything to fear. The snake's not worried about him. He's not worried about the snake. Everybody's on the same page. It's all cool. And so a lot of people, oh yeah, he was tripping his balls off. He doesn't act. There was no snakes. He was just seeing it. Except he had his camera with him.
Oh yeah.
And he took pictures, and there were snakes in between his legs.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe psilocybin might be useful for communicating with the snakes as well. I don't know. It seems to be an experiment in that. But,
yeah, well, you can do that, with or without the psychotropics, but because before I was the official rattlesnake wrangler, I used to spend time at some of the hibernaculum, some of the dens here, when the snakes were congregating, and there were there were times if you go and you just sit with them, yeah, they get comfortable and they moved right over you if you'll sit still. The problem is keeping your heart in check, so you don't panic. But yeah, as long as you're cool, they're cool. I think snakes are really good at reading your emotions and where you're at. Hey, so if you're afraid of them, they get afraid of you because they recognize it's dangerous because you're afraid, right? The first time I took Adrian, like she didn't, not like she wasn't like me. She didn't grow up with snakes and stuff. So having rattlesnakes become a part of her life was something she never predicted,
Right.
For me, it's like been a natural progression. It just makes sense that I'm the snake guy. But for her, who I call on her to help me sometimes in cases like with the garden netting and stuff like that. To ask your average person to go hands-on with a rattlesnake that's not a snake person is, yeah. So at one point, I told her, well, I'm going to go down to the den. The snakes were congregating there. And she said, well, I think I'd like to go with you. I think this time I'd like you to bring me to the den and show me. And I was like, all right. So I brought her down to Cottonwood Park, and I was going toward one of the dens, and I told her, the snakes can read you. So if you're calm, they're going to be calm. And if you are anxious, they're going to be anxious. And the more anxious you are, the more dangerous it is for us because the snakes are going to be scared, right? So I told her, just follow me. I'll walk you in. I'll show you the snakes. Try to keep calm. I know it's not like if you haven't been around snakes, you're not going to be able to keep absolutely calm. Your heart's going to be racing. Whether you like it, you're not going to be able to control that. But try to keep as calm as you can. So she told me afterwards when we started actually walking to the den, she thought the how slow that I was going, she thought it was exaggerated. And in the moment, she was like, she was thinking to herself, this is goofy how slow he's moving because I really move slow toward the snakes. I don't want to startle them. I want to just be part of their environment, right? And so I walked her in, and then I pointed out, there's a snake right there, and she couldn't see it. And so I moved a little closer and pointed a little closer, and there's a snake right here. She couldn't see. They're very camouflaged. She couldn't see it still. So I moved very close, probably within strike range. where I had my hand pointing at the snake. It's right here. And at that point, then she actually saw it. And when she saw it, of course, her heart started going. She had panic. You know, she didn't move or anything, but it was just the emotion. Hey, she was feeling the panic and the power, and and she might have to pause for a minute. Yeah, you can grab it. Okay. Yeah. Bring the big dog food in. Good job. So yeah, she started panicking, and then the snake started panicking, and it rattled and went down the hole. And when it did that, all the other snakes that were already in the hole started panicking too. So they all started rattling, and so under the ground, underneath us, you could hear all this rattle under our feet. And she tells me, you have to take me out of here because I'm gonna pass out, like I'm gonna faint. I'm blacking out. And I was like, no, you can't black out here. This is not the place it's not the place you want to fall down on the ground, right? So I took her out of there. But yeah, it's tough for people to not be overcome by the power of the snake, Yeah.
Well, I don't know. Could I do it? I don't know. I could help maybe. I don't know.
I'm sure you could. Yeah. It's just getting accustomed to it,
Yeah.
But
it'd be like anything else, right?
Yeah. So, yeah, but the first times you're going to be very anxious. It's like, going into a shark tank. When you're first going into the shark tank, it's pretty scary. But then once you're in there and the sharks are circling around, you realize you're safe. You're like, okay, and your nerves calm down. It's not a big deal, as long as that tank is there. With the rattlesnakes, unfortunately, the tank is not always there, right? If you want to do the rattlesnake job, you don't always get to use the tools. There's days that you have to go hands on. That's where you better know how to work with snakes.
There's no training scheme for that, is there?
Not really.
You can't learn that at Lethbridge College. So
no. I think you gotta train in the you gotta actually do it to learn it, right? And,
Too fun.
I like exotics too. I've been waiting for a cobra.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Have you ever anything like that? Have you ever handled?
Nothing super exciting and venomous. I'm waiting for that because I know they're here. I know that there's cobras in Lethbridge.
Are there?
Yeah. There's guys keeping cobras, and other other exotics. Yeah, and every once in a while, some of those get away. Like I have a python here, a pet python that I acquired because somebody reported that they had a rattlesnake in their apartment, and it was a python. So I get those kind of calls once in a while, hey. But they're usually, they're always so far non-venomous species, and mostly like corn snakes or king snakes or pythons or boas or these kind of things, hey. Then I get the crazy guys who call, who are out of their minds and paranoid and delusional and hallucinating. And I had a guy call. Might have been March or April this year. I'm
remembering something about this.
Yeah, he told me he's got at least 8 large black snakes in his house.
Right, black hydras.
So, some of them are in his couch. They got tentacles. They're having babies. They're hydras. Some of them are in his gym bag. I get crazy stuff like that. You know, or I got like people that are from India that had to deal with cobras for, you know, for like grew up around where there are cobras. Cobras are very aggressive snakes, so they don't take, you know, if they think there's a snake in their house, it's no joke for them. They're all in fear. So, you know, if I go to a house with East Indians, and they got a snake, you know, they might not even have a snake. Like one time over the winter, I got called to a house like that. They had a hair tie, but it's under a pillow. Somebody just caught a glimpse of this thing under the pillow, and they were sure it was a snake. So they vacated that whole side of the house, and, you know, called me to come rescue him from the hair tie. You know, I get stuff like that too, right?
I'm gonna start crank calling you now.
Yeah,
I'll send you over to Babs.
I had a call this year from somebody who was in her backyard doing some lawn work, some garden work and stuff, and she phones the rattlesnake hotline. She says that she's come across a rattlesnake nest and there's eggs, and I was like, well, rattlesnakes don't lay eggs, so I don't think that's what you've come across. But I'm happy to come check it out. And she's like, yeah, please do, because, you know, I don't know what else this could be. So I get over there, and it was some puffball mushrooms that were growing underneath some bush at her house. But, you know, they looked like eggs to her, right? So snake eggs. I
Stay away from the mushrooms, lady.
It's not unusual to get, like, you know, because people don't know about snakes, and it's a good thing every time, because it gives me an opportunity to, like, teach some more, you know, because I make videos of everything. That case, I never put a video up because I felt like I didn't want to humiliate the person, you know.
That's fair.
You know,
for the hair tie one.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to humiliate them. So, but yeah, I get some crazy calls though. A lot of people that want me to check holes. They're like, I got, you know, I noticed there's a hole in my backyard. It must be a snake hole. Well, it's possible, but snakes don't dig holes. So if you got a new hole, chances are you got a new rodent, you know, that dug that hole. There might be a snake there, but they come after the rodent occupation, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
after they have cleared the residents out.
That's right. Snake might go in, clear out the resident, and take residency himself for sure. But yeah, just because you got holes around your house doesn't infer that you got snakes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So. Yeah. Snakes don't have 4 legs and make chirping sounds, right? So.
Yeah. You had a question? What? Do you see me? No, I don't think we see you. You don't see her, hey? My niece hidden behind me?
No.
Yeah.
No. Didn't even know she was there. So.
You were stealthy. Nobody sees you.
Now I see you.
Come on. All right. Don't assault me. I'm on a podcast. So.
Okay. Oh, too funny. Anything else about catching rattlesnakes?
What else about catching rattlesnakes? I don't know. I guess a lot of people. One thing is that I'm a barefooter.
Right.
And when I work with the snakes, I usually wear sandals, but that's just so that I don't appear completely like a freak to the people who I show up at their house. I'd prefer not to wear sandals as well, but I wear them, you know, because it's like I'm doing business, so I got to put some footwear on, you know. So
yeah.
But a lot of people comment on my YouTube videos and are you know, and comment in a way like, you know, what kind of fool are you wearing sandals when you're catching rattlesnakes. Hasn't anybody ever told you need to have boots and this kind of thing and protective gear? And I like to put it out there that once you know strike distance, you're completely safe.
Yeah.
From the snake that you can see. It's only the snake that you don't see that's the danger to you. And in that respect, the number one thing about living in an area with rattlesnakes, and of course being the rattlesnake wrangler, is you have to maintain high awareness if you want to keep yourself safe, right? You gotta know where you're stepping, and you gotta see the snake before you step on it, right? That's the key. So if you see a snake out there, at that point, once you've seen the snake, you're usually 100% safe, unless you only see them because you're stepping on them. At that point, you're 100% bit. but most cases. But as long as you see the snake, you're perfectly safe. Okay.
Okay.
There's no reason to run. There's no reason to panic. There's no reason to anything. You're absolutely safe. If you're 2 feet away from the snake, you're safe. Nothing's going to happen to you. I've never seen a rattlesnake aggress on anybody, like move toward them aggressively. Yeah. They always move away, right? They always move away. They'll never move toward you. So I guess this doesn't have so much to do with the snake catching itself as just like a public message that the thing that's very important living in an area with rattlesnakes is to maintain awareness when you're in their territory. And for some people, that means when they're at home too, because they've built their homes right on the snake territory.
Right. Yeah. Right. Well, cool. Well, thanks for doing this one.
Oh, you bet.
So, yeah. So for our listeners, stay tuned for down the road. We'll have more to come for sure. So.
Right on.
Yeah.